Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of On Air with Owen, and today I am really excited to be joined by Rachael Howourth. Rachael, really good to have you here with us. You are the founder of MySalesMentor and also of Momentum Southwest, which maybe isn't quite so much the focus today, but I know you wear lots of different hats. And I'm really excited to be talking with you today, where we talk about building high performance teams, high performance cultures in a sales environment, which is, I know, a topic that you can add a hell of a lot of value to. Firstly, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for inviting me, Owen.
It's a pleasure. Really genuinely good to have you on. And I know we talk a lot, so I know that there's going to be a hell of a lot of value in the discussion today. Before we get into this topic, though, and I know it's a topic that a lot of people will want to hear your thoughts on, can you just give us literally 2 minutes? Who's Rachael? Tell me about your businesses so that we've got some context behind that discussion.
Yeah, okay, great. So hi, everyone. I am Rachael Howourth. I'm a sales and business coach, and my most passion, I guess, at the moment is MySalesMentor, the brand that I've built in the last year. You could argue it is a business that you could call a pivot. And that's because before that, I had a very much face-to-face training and consultancy business, Momentum Southwest, and we operate in the UK between Bristol and Cornwall. And we worked with SMEs and corporates, anything from a high street bank to a university to a small business SME to a solopreneur. And the topics that we trained on in that business were sales, customer service, leadership, and communication skills. And then, of course, COVID came along, as we all know, and face-to-face training was badly impacted. And although we did a really good job of migrating our training provision into a virtual classroom environment, I very much got intrigued by the online global coaching business, which is absolutely booming and still growing. It's projected for a 30% increase year on year in 2021. And I've now found a passion in coaching female entrepreneurs to help them to grow and scale their coaching businesses. So I now support women all over the world. I've got clients in Canada, the States, in France, in Croatia, in Bulgaria, and I'm just loving it. It's the best decision I think I've ever made, and I really do feel like I've found my purpose, which feels great. But if you'd have asked me that 5 years ago, I would have said that with my first business too. So there's always potential for things to change.
Who knows what's next? You know, just on that topic, we did an episode of this a couple of weeks back with Steph Livingston from Birdie Healthcare Software, and she talked about creating an environment for women to succeed in sales. You should check it out. Really good discussion. It's got some amazing thoughts on it. But let's just drill in on the topic today. Thank you for the background. I will just add one thing, because we've known each other for a while. You are an absolute sales expert as well. And when I hear you talk about sales and selling, whether it be individual contributor level or strategic commercial level, I always learn something from you. So, you know, yes, the coaching piece is important to you now, isn't it? But your background is very much sales led. And I think that's one of the things that empowers you to be so successful when you're coaching people, because you bring all of that experience and learning to those discussions. So do you just want to quickly touch on that direct sales experience, literally 30 seconds, just so people know your background from that?
Yeah, sure. I think it is such an important part of being a trainer, coach, facilitator. It's that, where did you come from? Have you actually done the job? You know, have you walked the walk? And I can absolutely say that I have, because I very much grew up in Auto Trader. Everybody probably has heard of Auto Trader, a big automotive online brand. It started for me when Auto Trader was a magazine, and I was their sales administrator. So I wasn't even in sales at that point. I was doing all the donkey work for the team, who were high flying, and they would get me to write out their contracts for them. And one day, one of the sales reps left, and I really loved her company car. So I said, I'll do the job, because I really wanted that company car. And when they gave me the company car keys and said, there you go, they also gave me her client list and a £12,000 a week target. And I hadn't quite bargained for the £12,000 a week target. All I wanted was the car. But I worked really hard, and because I'd worked in a car dealership before that as a marketing manager, I knew the language. I knew the language of car dealer world. So when I first went out to start trying to sell them advertising, they bought from me because I understood their pain. And we all know in sales, you have to understand the client's pain point to get that respect and earn the time that you need them to spend with you to make the sale. So fast forward 17 years and quite a few job changes at Auto Trader. I ended up in the role of UK sales director. I had 9 teams spread all over the UK. So I had 9 managers to manage, and each team had an account director or 3, depending on the territory. They each had their own little telesales hub, and they had a team of account managers that would go out and retain the business and upsell, cross-sell wherever possible. And all of their revenues added up together made my target of £97 million in the year that I left there. And what also happened in the year that I left is we floated. We went through a big IPO. And so you can imagine I was in charge of the biggest revenue stream at the point where the CEO was out trying to sell the company to all the big investors around the world. And I was being asked on a daily basis, how much are we going to sell today? How much are we going to sell tomorrow? How many new car dealers are we going to get on board? So yeah, handling that amount of pressure meant that I had to be good at training, coaching, forecasting, planning ahead, and managing that high performance that we're going to talk about today, Owen.
Love it. Absolutely love it. There's one comment that I'd make about that, which is, I don't know if you're the same, but whenever somebody talks about a target and it's 97 million, I always feel frustrated that it's not 100 or if it's 99 something. I don't know if you're the same. But...
Well, the target was 97 million, but I've still got the spreadsheet to this day. When I left, I made sure I saved it. That says, I think we did something like 102 million. So I smashed the target, basically.
Nice. Just get over that round number. Like it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Let's focus in on the topic at hand today, which is building high performance teams in a sales environment. We're talking about sales and high performance cultures. Wow, that's big, right? So where did we start? Let's just talk about summarizing what that actually means. What does high performance mean? And why is it important?
Yeah. So for me, a high performance team is a team that works together for the best end result. So it is a sales team that doesn't compete, that doesn't hold information so that they can, smash the leaderboard. It is a team that pulls their efforts, that picks each other up when they're down, that somebody else will, somebody in the team might say, do you know what, I'm going to miss my number this week, guys. And one of their colleagues says, that's okay, because I'm going to go over. And it will net out to mean that as a team, we achieve. So for me, high performance is very much more about the team than it is about the individuals within it.
Love it. So can high performance be determined or defined by a number? So you're 97 million, you hit 102. Can that happen without high performance?
I believe high performance is a mindset.
Okay, that's interesting. Tell me why you think that.
Because irrespective of the number, the only thing that's really going to get you there is that growth mindset that says, where did we go wrong last time? Which client did we not sell to that we should have? Which product did we take to market in less of a way than we should have? Where did we get our strategy wrong? Where can we improve it? And for me, that's not about a number. It's about a mindset. It's about an approach and a unity within the team to want to get there.
I like that. And I think what's interesting is you can hit a number without having that mindset once, but to repeat it month on month, quarter on quarter, year on year is where you absolutely need that mindset. I think that's a really good point. So let's try and define that mindset. So when you're looking for, or when you're talking to people and say, we need to have the right mindset, and somebody looks at you and goes, what does that mean? How do I get that? Where do you start?
So for me, it would be a mindset of raising the bar. So not a mindset of hit the bar, not a mindset of do the number. It's a mindset of always wanting to go above and beyond, always exceeding. And in my old, Auto Trader days, we used to say, we know when somebody has that mindset because at 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, when the traffic around the M25 is horrendous, they are the people that are still on the phone. They're still trying to do what they need to do. It doesn't matter to them that it's the end of the day. Everybody else has clocked off for the weekend and they just go the extra mile.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there's a lot of talk at the moment about that balance of, do you keep staying in the office late, or no one's in the office, but you get the idea, and working, or do we and give up some of that personal time versus staying in and making that extra call? And there isn't a right or a wrong, but what's interesting is that that's still one of the ways that we define it. but the same is true of other parts of the day, or the way that somebody conducts themselves generally, the attitude that they take to a meeting, whether they come prepared, whether they don't, all those sorts of things. And it's really interesting that you picked that one to define it, because we talk a lot about that one extra call. Like, it's 5 o'clock, make another call, because that's 365, well, it's not, it's 260 phone calls extra that you make every single year, just through one simple, really good habit. So I think that's a really powerful point.
It's about how seriously you as an individual take the accountability that is gifted to you. So it's up to us as people whether or not we take that accountability. So when we employ a new salesperson in our team, we make them accountable, for the clients. We make them accountable for the number. We make them accountable for the conversion rate. But it really is up to them whether or not they take that accountability seriously or not, and live up to it. And so, that's why for me it's not about a number. It's a mindset.
So when you think about the highest performing sales teams, and I'm going to say highest performing teams, they've probably got high performing cultures as well. And I think those are two different things, but let's just be clear, they're probably closely related at times. How much of that do you think is dictated by the leader leaders versus the people actually in the team?
Oh, so much of it I think comes from leadership. Because we are only empowered by our circumstances and our situation, and so much of that culture is from the manager. And we've probably all been in teams where the manager was promoted to the position because they were the best salesperson in the team. That doesn't always lend itself to leadership. But for me, some of the things that my team used to reflect back to me as a leader would be that I would always say, did we do our best, right? The number doesn't matter to me. Did we do everything that we could? If yes, well done. If not, why not? And as long as you can get together as a team and unpick that without judgment, without, picking on somebody for not doing what they were meant to do, to just as a collective to sit and take apart that performance and restack it back up for the next month in a way that will make it more successful, that is something that the leader has to orchestrate.
Yeah, I'm just going to bookmark that. I love that. I said to you, every time we talk, I learn something and I write something down. I like that conversation when you're sitting in a sales monthly review or budget meeting, whatever it is, target meeting, you're saying, did we do our best? Yes, we did. If not, well done. If not, why not? And I think what a great sentence to give to any sales manager or leader out there. You ask that question regularly enough, you'll get the right behavior out of people. Love it. That's fantastic. And let's just talk about the culture within the team, because I see people within our team, and no doubt you have in yours in the past, who are absolute net positives to driving culture forward and high performance culture without you asking them to. So not just at an individual level, but at a team level. They're people that drive those around them, that push them, that ask questions of them, challenge them, and kind of pull them with them. And I guess it'd be fair to argue that those people, you don't ask them to do, that's not part of their job description, but those people are integral. You need one or two of those people in any high performing sales team, at least, to take it forwards. And no amount of leadership can create that thing that somebody within the team can do. Have you seen that? Do you think that's fair? Have you got any commentary on that?
I do. For me, utopia in any team is where you get to the point of peer-to-peer feedback. So no longer is the manager required to deliver that feedback, to point out when things are going off track, to pull somebody up on not living the values or exhibiting the behaviors. When you have got a team of individuals who can, before the manager gets there, can say, hey, James, we don't do that in this team. We do it like this in this team. When peers do that to each other, as a manager, you've done your job extremely well. So yes, the individual has to want to do it, but the leader has to also allow that culture to even be given birth to, for the team to feel that. And at any one time in any team, there's always the 4 quadrants on the skill will matrix. So I would always assess somebody's capability, assess their will and commitment, and then plot that on a skill will matrix, where those 4 quadrants, any good team, is hopefully going to have as many people in the high skill, high will box as possible, which is I call it the delegation box. They're the people that are at risk of maybe leaving the business, feeling like they want promotion, not being given their next career path. They're the people that as a leader you have to delegate to and allow them to lead projects and initiatives. Otherwise you might lose them. One of those projects and initiatives could be working with the people in the other 3 boxes, and that's often missed by sales leaders. So the 2 boxes that are really, really, necessary are the coaching and the training box. And the other box, we hope that we don't have people in that box, but most sales teams will invariably have people in the low performance box, the low skill, low will. What are we going to do with these people? And for me, a high performance team always has people in all 4 boxes, but it's how the manager and the team deal with that really makes the difference.
Yeah, great, because that was my next question. I want to know real first-hand experience. How do you deal with that? So I've got an underperforming person in my team. The commitment isn't there. The easy answer is walk them out the door, I guess, but it's never as easy as that. What give me some of your experiences around managing through that.
So I've had a few experiences of this, as you can probably imagine, and they've all ended extremely well. Even when the person has exited the business, they've all ended well. And that for me comes down to, as a leader, your ability to give feedback and your ability to coach an outcome. So you have to, if you've got somebody in the low performance box, you have to have a grown-up conversation that says, you're not going to like what I'm about to say to you. I'm not even going to enjoy saying it, but I would be doing us both a disservice if I didn't give you the feedback around your performance right now. And I know that you're probably equally as dissatisfied with it as I am. Our job today in this conversation is to figure out a way forward, because you cannot stay here where you are right now, missing activity targets, missing conversion, missing numbers. That's not possible. So you give that feedback really open, really upfront, non-judgmental. You help them to carve out an action plan, a development plan that's going to move them away from where they are, but they must commit the actions. And then as a line manager, you have to follow up those actions, be seen and feel like you're doing everything possible, but not be afraid to push the button to move it to the next stage if the person can't get there. So you give them the training, you give them the coaching, you give them the support and empowerment. But for me, if that goes on any longer than 60 days, for me, that's time to turn the dial up, take it to the next level and have that conversation. And, you asked about my experience. The one time that really will always stick out in my mind, one of my sales reps, she was an account manager. She had been missing her numbers for quite a few weeks on the trot, which led to just going over the 2-month period, I think. I met her in a coffee shop. It was Friday evening, 7 p.m. We were both on our way home. And I met her and said exactly what I just said to you. You know, and I know that we're just about to have a difficult conversation. It's been brewing for a while. What are we going to do about it? And she said, Rach, I just don't know. I'm trying so hard. She'd been in the business over 10 years. She said, I'm giving it everything I've got, and it's just not working. I think I've lost it. I think I've lost whatever I had before. I think I've lost it. And I said, do you feel like the best thing I can do for you is to work with you on your CV, work with you on a job application, help you exit this company with your head held high, because nobody wants to see you go over the other side of the cliff, least for me. So does that feel like the best option? And she said, yes, please. She left about 6 weeks later. We're still friends. She came to my wedding, and essentially I fired her, but it was all done for the good of the team, for the good of the person, for the good of me sleeping at night. And it's possible. It is possible to do it in the right way.
Do you know what I'm hearing, and I talk about this a lot, is it's about good communication, because when you communicate to people and things aren't a surprise and they know where they stand, well, exactly that, they know where they stand. And I find that quite often you have that first conversation, it's usually never a surprise, because they can see their numbers, particularly in a sales environment. That's one of the beautiful things about sales environment. You're either hitting it or you're not. And if you're not consistently and your activity levels or whatever it is that feeds into that are not there, you have that conversation. Normally what happens is one of two things. You get a reaction if you're consistent with your management and your communication around it, or they make the call. they make the call before you even need to, because they can see it and they realize that that's best for them, and it's the right outcome either way, right? You don't get the wrong outcome in that scenario, but it all starts from how you do that first conversation, how you communicate. And yeah, I absolutely love the way that you put that. Like this, it's not possible to continue. And I think there's also a lot of weight around helping somebody out of the business and showing the compassion, because others hear and see about that. So when it comes back to survivor syndrome, okay, people are looking going, I've got respect for Rachael because she looks after people on the way out. Now, however much we might think these conversations are behind closed doors, they're mates with other people in the business. They talk, of course they do.
Absolutely. I had one lady join my team once, and in her first one-to-one, which was in my mind is always like a personal contracting type one-to-one. What do you need from a manager? This is what I need from you, and setting the values and what motivates you questions. And I'll never forget that first one-to-one, because she said to me, I've been scared to death that one day I was going to have to come and work in your team. And she said, and it's in a nice way. And I said, tell me about why you felt scared. And she said, because your reputation as a sales leader is that you don't take any crap. You know, everybody in your team hits their numbers and does what's expected. And I was scared that I might fall short. But the one thing that made me feel better is that all of your team talk about you as the fairest and most consistent manager that they've ever worked for. And that for me makes such a difference, because if people can see that fairness, then they feel safe. And if people feel safe, then they can perform.
Agree. Yeah, safe is a really great word. Love that. Love that. You know, what's interesting is that mindset coming in of I might be the one that doesn't hit their numbers. The opposite is, look, what a great opportunity to work with somebody who's going to help me hit my numbers. And I think that's that's an interesting way of looking at it. Can we go back to the leader for a second? Because we're talking a lot about the impact that that behavior has on people. I don't know what your thoughts are around this, but holding on to underperformers for too long, for me, has historically been probably the most damning thing that you can do as a sales leader. Have you seen that in any environments? Probably not you, because no doubt you've made mistakes as well, but just keen to hear your experience around that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what happens is the rest of the team start to notice that, you know, little Johnny's in the underperformer box, and if it's okay for him, I'll take my foot off the gas.
Yeah.
And so the overall performance of the team just goes down and down and down. And then as a manager, you know, it's like trying to jump start a Ferrari that doesn't work anymore. You know how fast it can go, but it's just not working right now. And that's very frustrating. And so I would say to any manager that's struggling to find that feedback and handle an underperformer, to just think about the alternative. Having to kickstart the team again when it's all fallen to pieces is so much harder than having to have that feedback conversation. So yes, I've seen it happen. And
it comes back to communication, right? People respect you for making those decisions. That's what you're paid to do, and you're making the right decision for the team, and you will only ever get a good reaction. One of my favorite phrases when we see somebody leave the business who's maybe dragged for a while is that you never ever make that decision too early. It's only ever too late. It's impossible that it's too early, because you know within you, you're just worried about the outcome or the conversation or whatever it might be.
Yeah. One of the things I used to do, which might be interesting for your listeners here, is I used to allow my team to set their own targets. And that wasn't because I was a lazy manager and I didn't have a number. I was always given a number by the business. And I had my head of reward, who I used to work with on incentives and bonuses, and we would always know what the number is. But I would get my team together. I would talk to them about a rough percentage uplift month on month, quarter on quarter, and I would leave them to get on with it as a team. I would go out and I would go and buy them bacon rolls and coffees and come back and ask them to present me the number that they felt as a team that they could hit. And what would happen there, if there was an underperformer in the camp, is the team would encourage them, and that accountability would go up in that low performer, because they were no longer doing it for their manager, they were doing it for their team. And so it became a really powerful exercise to do. And I did it against the sort of approval of all the other sales leaders in the business, because they're like, you're mad letting your team do that. But they always came out with a bigger number than I needed them to. That's what I was going to say.
I bet that was it. Yeah, individually, they always take a little bit more, 5% more accountability, and that stacks up very quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah. They would give me the buffer I needed to feel confident I was going to do my number. without me having to build in that buffer and then feel bad if they miss the number.
Yeah, like it. Absolutely love that. So let's just look back at the leader themselves, and we've talked about high performance, and we've dropped in the word culture, which is one of those words, right? A lot of people don't, I don't think many of us know exactly what it means. We just do what we do and it creates what it creates. Some people actually stop and think about it. You've talked about bacon rolls and coffees and meeting somebody in a coffee shop, and these things all contribute to that. How much of a difference does creating a culture that people want to be a part of make to performance, genuine sales performance?
Huge. And it's a two-way street. It's a two-way street. I used to say to my team, I had a lot of ladies, you know, if you want to go to the hairdressers on a Friday afternoon, you go. It really does not bother me, because what we're first and foremost here to do is to do our job. If your customers are happy, CSI scores are coming in great, revenue and retention is on track, it really doesn't bother me. Go to the golf course, go to the hairdressers, absolutely fine. But what I don't ever want is any surprises. So that would be our fundamental rule. So I had a few, we used to call it the vital few, a few things that were absolutely the basis for how the team operated. One was timekeeping, the other was honesty, and the other was no surprises. So I never wanted anybody to ring me up and say, I've just seen one of your account managers coming out of the hairdressers at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Like, did you know they were doing that? I don't want that surprise. I need to be able to say, yes, I did. They earned the right to do that because they've just hit a number or they've just led a project. And of course, I'm aware of it. So they were our kind of cultural basics. For me, that made a huge difference. And the team loved it because they knew what they could expect of me as a leader, and I knew what I could expect of them. So they were always honest with me, always.
And when do you have to, or in what scenario would you have to take those things away?
I fired a guy on day three once for being seen at the airport going to pick up his holiday tickets, and he was slightly off his patch. Somebody saw him, they called me up, and for me that just crossed the line. Day 3, and he was out.
Sorry, can I just touch it? So what you're saying there is that you're either part of the team and you get those things, or you're not part of the team. There's no part of the team and you don't get it.
Yeah, you're in. If they are the fundamentals of being in my team. Honesty and integrity all day long have to be there. No surprises, and timekeeping, always important.
It's interesting because that word compromise comes to mind. That there are lots of things that as a leader you will and should be compromising on, but there's a certain set of things that there's no compromise and can be no compromise on. And I think that honesty, integrity thing has to be up there at all times.
Yeah. All he needed to do is say, Rachel, I need to go and pick up my holiday tickets. It'll probably take me half an hour out of my day. Is that okay? I would have said yes. I would have said, yeah, fine, no, not a problem. It's the lack of honesty that was the problem.
Yeah. So when we look at culture, we've got coffees, days off, hairdressers, golf, freedom, flexibility, trust and communication. What else can contribute to creating a positive, high-performing culture within a sales team that you as a leader can implement and execute on?
Feedback. Feedback. Because 99.999% of people come to work to do a good job.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to do a good job. And by having doubts around whether or not your boss is believing in you right now, or is, approving of the way that you're performing, nobody likes to feel that they don't know where they are with somebody. And it comes back to that safety. So as a leader, you have to be, big girl pants on, big boy pants on, whatever, and give that feedback that's tough to give. And for me, that's integrity, like do the stuff that's hard to do, even though it's hard, because people will trust in you as a result of that. They will then go to the end of the earth for you. And my director used to say to me, of all the teams, Rachel, I know that we've got competitive sales reps, we pay them a fortune in bonus, but there's something different about the people that work in your team, that if they hit their number, they feel mortified that they've let Rachel down because of the strength of the culture. It really does make a big difference.
And what's interesting there is that we've talked about culture a fair bit already, and we've not talked about incentives and holidays and fun things in the office. We're talking about the core foundations of the culture, which are good leadership, open, honest feedback and discussion, ethics, honesty with each other, trust to go and do what you need to do, ownership and autonomy to create your own target. These are the things that make a great team. The fun stuff around it tops it up. If you just have the fun stuff and great earnings and great incentives, but none of the leadership stuff, it falls flat on its face.
Yeah, because those things are temporary. Those things are temporary. They come and go, but the other stuff you can really rely on. And people want things they can rely on. We like to feel that things are consistent and safe. It brings me back to that word of safe.
So if you were a sales rep, an individual contributor looking to join a sales team, you would want to know that it was a high-performing sales team, that you've got people around you can learn from, a leader that you can follow and respect and work for and enjoy the company of. What are the signs of that from the outside? What would you be looking for to give you a good indication that that's a high-performing team?
Oh, good question.
Yes.
Yeah, really good question. What would I look for?
You're starting a job interview with me. You're liking what we do. You're thinking of joining, but you want to make sure you're joining a really good team.
I would look for preparation.
Yeah.
Because most sales leaders are quite pacey people. And I know from being a hiring manager that you end up with loads of CVs, you skim read them, you don't put a lot of effort in. And because we're good talkers, we go into the interview and we wing it. And I don't want to work for anybody like that. So I would look for preparation in the interview. I would want them to be happy being challenged. So, I like to ask big, open, stretching questions of anybody. And I do that in an interview situation as well as any other, if it's me being interviewed. So I would expect to be able to ask them anything about the way that they lead and for them to give me a really honest answer. So I would expect to say, what are your development areas as a director, and that they would actually answer that. Because if they can't be honest with me, then they're never going to be honest with me.
Yeah, interesting. That word challenge, I think, is a really good one. I love it when people challenge me in interviews, and it tells me everything I need to know about that person being able to add value beyond just doing their job. Yeah, that's fantastic. I'd be looking for things like how long people stay as well, because people stay in happy teams that perform well and where they're achieving, hitting numbers and earning and getting reward and getting feedback. They don't stay for very long where those things aren't there. So I think that's another thing that potentially you could look for. Let's reverse that for a second, and let's look let's reverse the topic for a second. Look at the individual people within the team, because you, as an individual sales rep, as part of a team, let's say there's 10 sales reps, have a responsibility to support the vision, to support the drive towards being high performers. A leader can't do it by themselves. You can do all the right things with the wrong people, the wrong attitude, and it won't work. So what can you as an individual sales rep do to contribute to not just your numbers, but to the team being a higher performing team?
Okay. So for me, collaboration comes in, sharing best practice. So being able to spot gaps, being able to spot where your strengths are, and particularly your strengths that then align with somebody else's development area. Because if you can then buddy up with the person who's struggling in a particular area and tell them how you do it and help them, then you're overall going to get the impact of the team performance. So I would say, like, operating as a team player. And we know that there's lots of people in sales cultures that operate as an individual, and they might do their own learning, they might listen to podcasts, they might go and try and up their game in many, many ways. But unless they're sharing that for the benefit of the whole team, you're never going to get that high performance culture, because it always feels like, in the challenger sales model, it's the lone wolf character.
Yeah.
The lone wolf. If you've got a lone wolf in the team, particularly if the lone wolf is a high performer, it always feels like everybody else is trying to measure up to the lone wolf, and there's a secret, but you're never going to learn the secret. So as a team member, I would say be open, share what's working, what's not, ask for help. Sales reps who ask for help will get my help all day long. takes a lot to ask for help. But somebody that does ask for help deserves to get it. So
yeah. It's interesting. It takes me back to that word safe again, Rach.
Yeah.
If you feel safe in your environment, you will ask for help if you need it. If you don't, then asking for help could get you fired. Right? I don't know this. So, you know, in the wrong environment, people are worried about performance management, judgment. I mean, fire's probably a bit extreme for asking for help, but, you know, do it enough times and you never know in the wrong environment. So, yeah, it's interesting that word keeps coming up, doesn't it, when it comes to creating that culture. I love that. Absolutely brilliant. And I think if we just take it to some basic stuff, so as an organization, leader, whether it's you're a leader or you're the founder above a sales, whatever, it's an organization. What are the core foundations we need? So we need feedback, we need honesty, we need the right leader in place, we need the right remuneration. What other things are you thinking? Like, let's do a checkbox of these are the things I must make sure I have, otherwise we ain't going anywhere with this team.
Yeah. Tracking, you know, it's that old phrase of you can't manage what you can't measure. So it's pointless setting a fluffy target, you know, setting a fluffy goal, because if you can't keep a track of it and you can't measure it, you can't celebrate along the way, then it becomes meaningless. So I think when a lot of people hear KPIs or tracking, you know, CRM numbers, they start to think, oh God, you know, I'm gonna be measured. But that's how we know when to celebrate. Watching a game of football, if nobody was keeping score, suddenly it loses its appeal. So I think where it becomes a bit scary is where you've got a manager that uses the tracking and the measurement as a weapon, as a tool to beat you with, when that's not what it's there for. It's a sign of when to celebrate for me.
And also where to help people.
Yeah.
Because if we only look at the end result, and let's say my target is 100 and it's made up of, you know, X conversion rates on the way through, we know that to get 100 sales, we've got to speak to sit that many meetings. In order to get a meeting, you've got to speak to that many people. Where am I falling down? Maybe I'm coaching people on how to sit a meeting, and actually the problem is they haven't got enough. They're doing really well in that, but they're just not doing enough at the top of funnel. And the other is true. Maybe we're coaching them on the conversation. They just can't get hold of people because the data strategy is wrong or whatever. We need to know where to coach people and where to help people. And the only thing that tells us that is data.
Yeah, absolutely. The tracking. So definitely the tracking I would add to the list. The other thing I would add to the list is time. You know, if you work in a team where nobody gives you time, then you just feel like you're always on your own. You know, it can be lonely in a sales job. If you haven't got a manager that lends you time, or a high performer that's going to buddy up with you and lend you time, then yeah, you're on a hiding to nothing. And the other sort of T, they're all T's, tracking, time. The other T is talent, you know, like managing your own talent and having that long-term personal development plan. Because for me, training doesn't happen in a classroom. It doesn't happen in a click of a finger. True personal development takes time. It takes, yes, you've got to learn the skills. You've got to be given the space and time to practice. And then you've got to be given the time to implement what you've practiced and get feedback on it, and then raise the bar again. And so it's an ever fulfilling circle. So for me, you know, as you know, I do a lot of sales training. Anybody that comes to me and says, I want to train my team because I want their sales results to be better next month, well, you're doing the wrong thing, because I can't fix it in a month, because that's not true personal development. No. It takes a long time to really up somebody's performance in that way.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said in this whole topic about just giving a damn about people, genuinely caring, isn't there? We talked about safety, support, all these sorts of things. It's like having a genuine desire to help the people around you, to create an environment where they're happy, not to pretend to, but actually want to do it, and to help them be the best they can be, whether that's on the way out because it's not right for them anymore, or brand new to the company. And I don't think you can fake that, Rach. I don't think you can pretend that. I think you're either like that as a leader, an organization, or you're not. And, you know, it leads me to believe that actually a lot of high performance teams is probably determined before you start building that team.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I also think it's about being comfortable being accountable. So for me as a manager, I would always have, you know, the buck stops with me. I was the one with the 97 million. That was my target. The fact that that was sliced and diced and allocated to 60 other people, that was kind of irrelevant, because when I was sat in my one-to-one with my boss, it was, is Rachel doing her 97 million? It would never be, oh, well, one of the teams is underperforming, because I have to be accountable. But you know, what's that phrase? Shit rolls downhill, right?
Yeah.
We talk about my 97 million, but then when I'm in one-to-ones with my managers, I'm allowing them to be accountable for their number as well. But if I then want to start picking into what their team's doing and what each individual is doing, I'm taking away their management autonomy. So for me, yeah, you've got to genuinely care, and you've got to be really prepared to be accountable and to stand up for what you're doing well and what you're not doing so well.
Brilliant. Well, look, Rach, we're nearing time. As always, loved hearing your ideas and your thoughts. Written 3 or 4 phrases down, including shit rolls downhill, which I think is a brilliant one. Every time we talk, I get 2 or 3 little catchphrases and things that I can just use straight away, and I'm sure other people watching this will have done the same. So thank you so much. That's some thoughts there on building high performance teams and cultures within the sales environment. Before we wrap up, Rach, if people want to talk to you, firstly, who can you help and who should talk to you, and if they fit into that category, how can they get in touch?
Okay, who can I help? Well, at the moment, I'm helping a lot of particularly women who want to start and grow online coaching businesses. So that's a group of people that I'm working a lot with at the moment. The other group of people that I work a lot with are what I would call SMEs that are in a growth mode. So they're really looking to hire, train, develop their salespeople to take their results to the next level. And the ways I help them, I critique, review, and build their sales strategy with them. I build personal development programs for them. And in many cases, I chair their sales meeting, I track performance, I spot the opportunities for growth, and just help them to hit their commercial plan. So that's who and how I help. And the way that you can get in touch with me is you can look up Rachael Howourth on LinkedIn, you can look up Rachael Howourth on YouTube, or on Facebook or Instagram. I am known as MySalesMentor. And also I'm on Clubhouse as my.
I was going to say, I'm amazed I've gone half an hour with you without mentioning Clubhouse. I know you're a fan. It's very rare to talk to you outside of Clubhouse. I'm very impressed that you managed to walk away, and I'm sure you're dying to get back onto it now.
It's been a really good platform, and the more I'm on it, the more benefit I'm finding from Clubhouse. It's just fantastic. So.
Fantastic. Well, look, I know we've got a session later in the week, so I'll speak to you on there. But thank you so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed the conversation as always, and appreciate you partaking. So thank you.
Thank you for inviting me, Owen.
Pleasure.